film freaks, and welcome to another edition of the Knicks Film School Film Session. This is the third installment of the 24-25 season. We'll be doing this weekly here on the YouTube channel, so please set your notifications. We will be here each and every week, myself and my film colleague, Benji Ritholtz. Today, recording this on Thursday, the Knicks coming off a really disappointing, disheartening loss to the Atlanta Hawks in Atlanta, 121-116, where on both ends of the floor, the team fell apart in the last 2 minutes and 46 seconds. And we are going to watch back those final 2 minutes and 46 seconds and see every possession to try to figure out, diagnose what went wrong, what went right. Newsflash, not much went right. There was a lot of things going wrong, and we'll try to use the film to try to take an unbiased, really hard look at what went down in Atlanta. And then before we wrap up, because I hate to do it, but it'll be not the most fun film session if you are, want to be positive, but I will finish up this film session with some plays, actions the Knicks have run over the past several games that I think are very positive, and I think are nice additions to the playbook. And I think aspects to this team that gives you some hope that their offensive ceiling is truly still at an elite level and that they will continue to figure it out. But they are still in the figuring it out phase right now. And that game in Atlanta really showed that. I thought the game in Houston also had some aspects to it as well. Both teams had a lot of length, a lot of youth, a lot of athleticism, and that bothered the Knicks, and it bothered probably no one more than their star point guard, Jalen Brunson. So with that said, let's dive right in. We are going to kick this off with the Knicks leading 110-105. Now, this came right after Karl-Anthony Towns had an initial goaltend call. Play was reversed. Knicks, the call was correctly called a good shot block. Knicks got the ball back. Momentum on their side. Fans in Atlanta going absolutely crazy. A lot of Knicks fans in the house. Momentum was on the Knicks side, and you thought the Knicks, with the ball, with 2 minutes and 46 seconds left in the game, were going to figure out a way to pull this out. Now, things started to go wrong on this possession coming out of that coach's review. Knicks are going to go to the step-up screen with Karl-Anthony Towns, and remember, step-up screens are basically any screen on the outer third of either side of the floor. And usually the person setting the screen is going to have his body facing the opposite baseline. Knicks have gotten good success out of this action. It's a good way to get Jalen Brunson downhill. Typically the Knicks will have the corner empty. So they're going to have, this area unfilled. Takes away any gap help, gives Brunson what we would call a double gap to attack into. So love the action to start. This has, again, been, since the preseason, something Knicks have gotten good results out of. So we're going to get this step-up screen from Karl-Anthony Towns. Dyson Daniels, and we really have to just make note of this. He was all over Jalen Brunson in this game. I thought his screen navigation was elite. His ability to follow Brunson on any of those off-ball screens the Knicks were running was tremendous. He is as good a point of attack defender as there is in the NBA. So the Knicks don't get much separation off that initial step-up screen. So now we get Brunson basically isolated on the right wing. I think the initial thought here is to rescreen this was a smart move by both Towns and Brunson. But the issue is we never get any contact on this rescreen with Brunson coming back to his left. Now, credit, again, you have to give credit to the defense on some of these plays, because if you look at the positioning by Daniels, he is providing very little room for Towns to actually set that screen. Now, can Karl-Anthony Towns actually make contact and set a better screen? Yes. That is his job in this play to gain Jalen Brunson some separation coming off the screen so he has an advantage. That's the whole idea here. This is what we call the first level. So this is the first level of the screen. This is typically going to be your second level. And then your third level is your backline defense. You, as a screen setter, you have to give your ball handler separation coming off that screen. That does not happen. So as we play this through, Daniels is in great position. Now he cuts Brunson off. Brunson is going to try to penetrate. Now here's the other aspect to all of this. If you look at how the Hawks have basically aligned their defense, they have overloaded here. They have 3 players on the Towns Brunson side. So there is just not a lot of room for either a roll or for Brunson to actually get downhill. So this is going to be another compounding issue that the Knicks are going to have to face on this possession. So as Brunson penetrates, there's just going to be a lot of red. He's going to see that's a lot of length. Now, if he's, and this is the conundrum with the way Brunson is as a player, that he can't, because of his size, make this pass over the top to OG Anunoby. Now, maybe you would get Bridges is kind of screen down and pin in to give Anunoby a little bit of room, but Bridges, I think, correctly reads that he needs to cut into this area to give Brunson some sort of release valve to try to be in position to make this play. Brunson, because he's 6'2", and because the Hawks have just a ton of length on this floor outside of Trae Young, there is just not a lot of room for Brunson to make anything happen. So he makes the only pass he really has, which is this outlet to Josh Hart at the top of the key. Now, at this point, with 8 seconds on the shot clock, it's not a lot of time. The spacing is really out of whack. Maybe you can get into some sort of dribble handoff. Maybe you can have Brunson, instead of just staying there, you can have him come up and maybe ghost screen and pop out to the side. This is flow offense at this point. So you basically had your initial action, which was that step up screen. Nothing came out of it. The Hawks did a great job of guarding it. And now the Knicks have to ad lib, and they do a poor job of doing it. They basically just stand around. Josh Hart, poor guy, is on an island, and he does the only thing he can do with the shot clock under 5 is to take that above the break 3. He misses it. And now we're going back on defense. 110 to 105. And to me, this is another blunder by the Knicks. Now, both teams, as this game was winding down, was trying to get both Trae Young and Jalen Brunson involved in the action. Mikal Bridges is guarding the ball. I thought he did a really good job all game making life tough on Trae Young. Jalen Brunson they're going to try to either get a switch here or get some sort of Brunson hedge and get Daniels rolling into space and playing out of that. So we're going to play this through a little bit. Now, the first thing you're going to want to notice is that, and this is the details, and this is maybe it's late in the game. Fatigue is a problem. If you're Jalen Brunson, you have to know that this roll going into this area is going to be the intention here by Trae Young, and you have to have your arms out. And as Mikal Bridges comes off this screen and he gets over the top, he also has to have his hands out. You have to try to take away that pocket pass or make it difficult. Play it through and watch the space that Trae Young has. I mean, this is basically for an elite passer, as easy as it gets to drop this ball off. And now you're going to basically get a 4-on-3 on the back end. So because the Knicks weren't detailed with their hand placement to try to take away that pocket pass, Daniels is going to easily catch that. You can see Brunson and Bridges at this point, it's too late. Those hands have to be basically in the vicinity of where that pocket pass is going to be passed before it actually happens, to try to deter the pass or, again, make it tougher. So that might be nitpicking. Listen, a great passer like Trae Young is going to figure out a way to get the ball to his roller into space. This is where I think the problem was. As Daniels catches, to me, the Knicks are in good position. All right. You have Towns in a fine position to be able to take away any sort of floater or rim attempt from Dyson Daniels. You have Josh Hart, who to me is in good position to crack down on Capella so he can help the helper. The Knicks, to me, have an easy way to, at 15 on the shot clock, to either cause a bad shot by Daniels or to force a reset. To me, OG Anunoby has to get out to the shooter. This is too much attention to Dyson Daniels, who is not having a strong game, is not a good offensive player. We do not need this. And we do not need to give him this, which is a rudimentary pass to the corner. Now, in OG Anunoby's defense, we don't know what the scouting report was. We don't know what the Knicks told him how to operate in this game. If you watched it from start to finish, it was clear, that he was going to roam all night and not pay much attention to the Jalen Johnson, who, again, is a upper 20s three-point shooter from the right corner. So you can argue that if you're going to play off anyone on the floor, he's the one. But to me, Dyson Daniels is not hurting you in this position with Towns in this spot. With Hart available and help, you can't give up what amounted to be a rhythm open three in this position, up 5 with 2 minutes and 15 seconds to go. Easy pass. Now, Anunoby does a pretty good job of recovering here, gets a decent contest, but still, it's an open look and it's a three-pointer and it's 110 to 108 going the other way. 2 minutes to go. And this is where the Knicks are going to do what the Hawks just did. They're going to try to get Trae Young involved. So I'm going to bring that back a little bit. Josh Hart is a good screener for a 6'4" shooting guard, small forward, power forward, whatever he is. But he is someone that is 6'4", screening a player that is 6'7", 6'8", strong, who is an expert screen navigator. It's just a tough ask here for Josh Hart to try to get Brunson some separation from Dyson Daniels. So the first screen is set. Trae Young is going to hedge. He's going to basically try to get the ball picked up or the momentum from Brunson stopped. I think the job was done well enough. Nothing amounts to it. Brunson is not a shooting threat from this position, so there's no switch needed. There's no panic. There's no room for any sort of roll pass to the basket. Of course, Josh Hart is not going to be a lob threat, so you can't get that ball over the top. So the only option at this point is to get a rescreen and try to get some separation that way. That's what Hart does. He comes up. He sets a better screen here. Again, Trae Young is hedging, and he's basically doing as you would see most players do. So it's not really a hard hedge. It's a soft. So he's trying to contain the ball, and he's also got to worry about Hart rolling to the rim. So as he's containing, he's also going to be retreating to try to take away this roll by Hart to the basket. So again, are we getting any advantages? And that's what these screens, these actions are designed to do. Are you getting Jalen Brunson advantages against an elite point of attack defender? I would say no. At this point, you're not gaining any advantage for your star player. So he's having to do a lot of work on his own, and you just look at where the spacing is and all the bodies and everything that's occurring here. It's a lot to ask a 6'2" point guard to try to navigate 4 eyes basically surrounding him with poor spacing, with just not a lot of room to go. Now, credit to Karl-Anthony Towns, who I think reads this, and he knows Anunoby's here on the left corner. And what he's going to do is going to set this pin-in screen to try to get this pass over to Anunoby open for a catch and shoot three with the shot clock running down. So to me, this is just and basically an ad lib. It's a situation of Towns reading the game, trying to get his point guard a window to pass and his fellow shooter an open shot. Sets a screen. This is a really good job by Towns in a play that was basically broken, had nothing going on. So he sets this screen. Johnson is able to fight out of it and he gets a pretty good contest. But if you base it on where the Knicks started on the possession and where it ended, not the worst shot in the world, but certainly we're not getting phenomenal offense here to end this game here. So we get an Anunoby miss, and we're at 110 to 108 with minute 43 and counting down. Again, Brunson in the action. Okay, so you see the theme here. We had Trae Young on one end, Brunson on the other. Both teams trying to hunt these players. Daniel set the screen. Brunson is containing the ball, so this is not really a hard hedge. It's more at the level, but the Knicks are basically going to switch this. So as Young sort of strings this out to the right wing, Hart is going to leave, and now Brunson has Trae Young in isolation on the right wing. And now here's where the coach made a mistake. Now you're going to watch Josh Hart. He's going to look to the bench right there. And as he looks, you're going to see Tom Thibodeau basically yell, "Go, go, go," which means go double and get the ball out of Trae Young's hands. So he gets a signal. Now we get 2 to the ball. Here's where my head was when I was watching this. Trae Young is a good scoring point guard. He is one of the top 2 or 3 passers in the entire NBA. I want Trae Young to be a scorer. I want Trae Young to look at Jalen Brunson across from him and say, all right, I'm going to try to take this player. I'm going to try to, whether it's a step back or whether he's going to try to get into the lane, whatever he's going to do as a scorer. I prefer that than to send a double where he has full view of the entire court with good spacing and he can just pick us apart. So it's what the Knicks called. I don't agree with it, but can you defend it better? At this point here, this is where I think if you're Bridges, you have a player in Dyson Daniels. I don't know what he was shooting at this juncture of the game, but he was not making anything. And he is certainly, even if he's going well, not a threat from 28, 29 feet from the basket. If I'm Bridges, I see this double, I'm shrinking and I'm getting to about here. I need to make this 45 cut or this cut to here tougher. You do not need to be this close to Dyson Daniels in this position based on how the Knicks are defending it. Because he's given up this pass, and because, again, if we're going to talk about details, and again, I'm going to reiterate it, we don't know how much fatigue is playing here, but we need arms out here. We need to be a deterrent. We need to be active. And Jalen Brunson, for all his effort that he can give on the defensive end, to me, just needed to be a little more detail-oriented with some of his hand positioning to try to make some of these passes a little tougher. But again, I think this is on the coach for having Hart double. I want Trae Young trying to beat me as a offensive scoring threat, not a passer. So we get an easy pass to the middle. And at this point, I mean, Towns, I don't know what you do in this position. You don't want to give up the lob. You don't want to give up the pass to Capella. You don't want to give up a layup. The shot that's ultimately taken is probably the best outcome that you can hope for in that spot. He was put in a terrible position by the head coach and by some of the positioning on defense. And it's an relatively easy kind of push floater that Reece Arche is able to make. And we get a tie ball game. I think it's a strategic error there on that possession, and also some issues I have with how Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges defended it. I thought they could have both been a little better. So now we're at 110, and the Knicks are going to go back to that step-up screen with an empty corner. At this point, I want to and I made note of this before the season started, about how if you're going to be a pop threat, if you're going to play with a player like Karl-Anthony Towns, who is one of the elite pop centers or bigs in the NBA, the behind the back pass as you're sort of stringing along the defense, as you're gaining separation, is an important pass to make as a point guard. I don't have much memory of Jalen Brunson actually making that pass with his strong hand, his left hand. I don't think I've seen it with his right hand, but this would be a position here where if we go a little more. Now, if we get it to right about here, like you could conceivably behind the back, because the hook pass with the right hand is going to be tough because of Daniel's length. A behind the back pass to Towns to let him walk into a three, maybe force this rotation here, and you get a swing and an open three. To me, that pass looked to be open. Now, to Jalen Brunson's credit here, he probably saw what he ultimately did, which is he had this ability to get to the outside shoulder of Capella or his left foot, get outside and get all the way to the basket. I think this is in terms of the outcome, in terms of the execution here, pretty good job by Brunson here to just get downhill. And he does what a lot of people think is grifting or foul baiting. It's close. I understand the criticism, but to me, this is just really strong offense to get downhill and then to veer into the pathway of the defender and let them basically right there. So now at this point, you're not necessarily causing the contact in a literal way, but you are moving into a position where Daniels has nowhere to go, and he's going to basically have to ride his back a little bit. And close call, but to me that was a foul. So good offense there by Brunson. Unfortunately, only goes 1 for 2 at the line, so the Knicks are going to have a 111, 110 lead here with 1:20 to go. Bridges guarding the ball. Here comes Brunson again, bringing him into the action with Daniels screening. We're going to get a reject. And remember, when we talk about rejecting screens, we're talking about the ball handler going the opposite of where the screen is going to is taken. So typically what you're going to get is coming off the screen this way. I think he was reading Brunson kind of moving in that direction and was going to get him leaning that way, and was probably going to get a straight line drive, and that's the hope. A lot of times when you reject the screen, you're not really. The goal isn't to just get by your point of attack defender. It's that whoever is the screen man defender is going to be out of position, and you can get downhill and get some nice stuff out of it. So we get the reject. Brunson does a good job of recovering. Now we're basically getting 2 to the ball. Young makes the right pass. And now Daniels, who was not a shooting threat. So typically you're going to want a player, if you're going to be playing with Trae Young, to be able to make this shot. This is a wide open shot from the top of the key. He doesn't have confidence right now in that shot, or at least didn't have it in this game. So he's going to catch, he's going to drive. This one I'm not going to go crazy about because it's a bang bang play. But here's the only thing I would say. To me, when I look at this, I think Bridges has this contained. And the worst case scenario, if you're the Knicks, is that you're going to get a contested floater layup. This is not going to be a clean look. I understand the instinct of the big. Towns is going to want to come over and affect the shot. And what that's going to do, though, is that's going to require Hart to come down, crack down, help the helper, and try to get a box out on one of the best offensive rebounders in the NBA. It's a tough ask. It's a tough ask for a true power forward, not a guy that basically masquerades as one. Or it's a tough ask here. So could Towns basically stand on Capella and let Bridges just contest this? I think he could have. Again, I can't fault Towns for trying to get the ball. It's the instinct of a big. But because he does that, Hart is just not able to get in front of Capella here. He pushes them in the back. We're going to get a foul call. And Capella, to his credit, makes both free throws. So the Knicks now find themselves down 112 to 111. Knicks going right back to that step-up screen. And what I like when the Knicks run this and they have pace to it and they set it closer to half court, to me, that's where this screen, this type of screen is so valuable because it just gives Brunson a runway to the rim with space to get downhill and make something happen. So we get the step up screen. Brunson is going to basically reject it. So typically when Brunson and the Knicks run this from the right side, he's going to take it basically closer to the baseline. The right side of the floor. In this case, he's going to push cross, get into the middle. And this was somewhat alarming in the sense that if you are Jalen Brunson, you're feeling good. This is a wide open in this position, pull up three. There's no scenario where this is not a good look for the Knicks in this position to get an open above the break three for Jalen Brunson. Now, we don't know, and this is the hard part about criticizing anyone for not shooting. It's such a rhythm aspect to the sport that if you just don't have your feet necessarily in order, or things are just not comfortable, you don't have the laces where you're not on the seams the right way on the basketball, like things don't feel right, you might not pull the trigger. So it's hard to criticize it, but to me that is an open three, and the Knicks generated an open three based on the action. Brunson just doesn't take it. So now we're in an isolation scenario with Brunson on a center, which has not been great offense for the Knicks, even going back to last year. His isolation numbers against bigs are not great because your outcome is either going to be a step back three, or maybe he gets downhill a bit and gets into his short mid range, but you're not getting the highest quality of offense in this scenario. The best shot the Knicks had, he passed up. Okay, so Hawks, again, they're showing a lot of help here. That's Reece Archie here. He's really showing a lot of gap help. So, I mean, this drive to his left, there's just no room for it. Daniels is going to be trying. Now, he's got a tough scenario because he's got Towns to account for as he's spacing out to the right wing, but he also needs to provide gap help for Capella on this potential drive. Now, this is something he does. If you watch for it, he does this pretty often where he has the pass to the corner. You can do it with either hand. And he's sort of lulling not only the point of attack defender, but he's trying to lull this guy to sleep by his posture and the fact that he is not looking in the corner. He's trying to basically rifle a pass to the corner and get a quick three out of it. So as he sort of bounces this out, he's in just a quick boom. Now, credit to Daniels, because if you look at this, that is an awesome shot contest. It really is. So if you play this back, again, he passes up on the three. Daniels is communicating. And as that pass goes, I mean, he is such a efficient athlete that he just flips the hips and he is getting right at the shooting release point of Karl Towns. For all his greatness, the one sort of area where Towns can struggle a little bit is against shot contests, because he has one of the lower release points of any centers in the NBA. He's susceptible to this sort of shot contest. But it's a great job by Dyson Daniels to get a really good lefty on righty shot contest. I mean, what I mean by lefty on righty, if you're a right-hand shooter, is much more impactful if a player is going to be contesting with his left hand than having to use his right hand and having to basically angle over. You're just not going to get the same vertical length if you're contesting same hand on this shooter same hand. So that's just one of those little details. Daniel seems to be very, very detail oriented. So he's going to be a lefty on righty shot contester. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I think Mitch has been such a good shot blocker. Many other reasons, his length, his athleticism, all the things, but he is a left-hand shot blocker against mostly right-hand shooters. So great job by Dyson Daniels to get just an awesome shot contest here. Now, I'm going to bring this back. This is the other part of this that's a sort of an issue here. Just watch the Knicks crash on this. They are not sending one. They're not sending two. They are sending three to the offensive glass. You have your best offensive rebounder shooting the ball, and you're basically offensive rebounding by committee here, which is just going to be a problem with your transition defense if you do not come up with the basketball. And this is where this was the trade-off, right? If the Knicks were going to make this trade, you're not going to have the same offensive rebounding ability. Now, they lost Hartenstein and Mitch is not available, so you probably wouldn't have it anyway. But when Mitch is healthy, or you're just not going to get the same offensive rebounding from one singular player. So if you're going to be able to be a good offensive rebounding team, you're going to have to strategically send multiple bodies here. But I think three is too many, because if you're not getting the ball and Towns is in this far corner, he's basically out of the play. So if you are not getting this basketball, you're in a world of hurt, because as soon as this ball is going to be wrestled away and you get this hit ahead to Trae Young, and this is as bad as it gets if you're the Knicks, because you have Capella running the floor at 6'11", and the best lob thrower maybe in the NBA on the other side, and Jalen Brunson in just the worst position possible trying to defend this. Credit to Anunoby for trying to get back into the play, but it's an easy drop off. Doesn't even need the lob, and it's a dunk, and it's 114 to 111. Things just falling apart for the Knicks. Now, sideline out of bounds here. Knicks don't need a three. We'll take it, obviously, if you're going to get a good one. But you're going to get this stagger screen here. So you're going to get the Hart screen on Brunson, and then Cat to try to free him up. Maybe not for a shot, but at least for a catch. So this is going to basically act as like sort of a zipper screen, where a zipper screen is typically a screen set to be able to free up a player to come and receive the ball and to not necessarily be open for the shot. But I think this had both outcomes in play. But again, we have screen navigation by Daniels. It's not a great screen by Towns, not a ton of separation. And now, again, this is just, there's nothing happening. You have plenty of time on the shot clock. You can run another set here. It's Dyson Daniels, and we talked about his ability as a defender. We just talked about left hand on right hand shot contests. Brunson's left hand player, and just look at the hand, right hand on left hand shooter, opposite hand of your opposite hand of the player shooting. It's just perfect, and he's right at the top of the release. To me, it's not a great shot. It's Jalen Brunson, so can he make this? Yes, but is it the look that you want in this position? I think no. It's a miss. That's a tough. Hart is trying his best to just go get the basketball. I thought this call, if it's not made, it's probably not going to be argued by the Hawks. But because he's basically makes contact before Reece Archie gets the ball, and his contact does push him out of bounds, there's nothing you can do but make that call. So to me, even as a fan of the team, I can't argue with that one. It's 114, 111. Now the Hawks are just making free throws, and where they're going to win that game again, 121 to 116. Just not the way you want to finish the basketball game. A lot of we analyzed it, issues on both ends of the floor. But if you're the Knicks, you just that's a game you just got to come out with a win. 3-4. It's early. at the point of recording, Cavs are 9-0. Celtics, I believe, are 7-2. Like there is a need here to start racking up some wins because we're going to get to the 15-20 game mark before you know it. So tough one to end it for the Knicks. Before we wrap this up, I did say we had some more positive plays to talk about, but there is just one thing that I just want everyone to monitor that we have to just be wary of. And I tweeted about it yesterday or last night. That was a night of the game, about some of the screening issues that the Knicks are facing right now. And last year, Isaiah Hartenstein, especially the second half of the year post All-Star and the playoffs, his screening was instrumental in terms of how Jalen Brunson was able to maintain decent efficiency and score at the level he was scoring. To me, that is a lot of that was on Isaiah Hartenstein's screening. We talked earlier in the show about when you're screening, you want to give your guard an advantage, or give any player, whoever the ball handler is. So as Towns comes up and set the screen again, and then we're in the Hawks game. This is just early in the first in the game, midway through the first quarter. This is where my issue is. If you're Towns, that's his body position is just not where it needs to be. He needs to be basically screening the lower half, basically the left butt of Dyson Daniels. If you can get yourself basically angled to where like Towns would be facing almost the Atlanta bench in this direction, it's going to make any ability for Dyson Daniels to go under the screen much tougher. Why? Because there's just going to be more body mass if Towns is going to be able to screen the lower half and the left back pocket of Dyson Daniels. That's where that screen needs to be set, because you want him going over the screen, because if he goes over, more times than not, you're going to get an advantage. But because Towns, that angle is just a little bit too flat, Daniels is able to shoot this. And again, this is where this is almost like the Dyson Daniels like defensive showcase here, because how he drops his shoulder in coming around that screen. He drops the shoulder. There's just an efficient, explosive way to shoot the under in here and basically negate any advantage that was going to happen. And now he's just playing one-on-one. And it's just a tough shot. Again, righty on lefty shot contest. Nick's got to be better screeners. They just have to be. It's a huge aspect to Jalen Brunson's ability as an offensive player. You have to make the game where you can. You have to make the game a little bit easier for him. So that's the one little aspect of the game in Atlanta that was in the last 2 minutes that I just wanted to point out. Few other plays that over the past several games that have just caught my eye. This one from the Rockets game, I pulled it because I just have never seen the Knicks run it, and I don't recall a team running this specific action here. So we're basically going to get this cluster look. You have 4 Knicks on one side and Brunson alone on the strong side. Knicks will have actions here where you'll get an empty side ball screen over here and a 3-man action over here, maybe like a staggered look. It's called hawk action sometimes. So you go empty side on one, and on the other, you run a stagger screen almost as a decoy at times to try to mess with the low man help and try to disrupt that and get a good look here. So if we play this through, Sim's going to come over. So we're going to get our empty corner pick and roll. But the interesting thing here is that, and this is the game Anunoby was really shooting well. So I don't know if this is just something they drew up at halftime or in one of the timeouts to try to get him a look. But you're going to get this, like, I don't even know what to call the screen. It's got elevator screen aspects to it, a wall up screen, but you get screening two here to give Anunoby a really clean look from the right wing. Shepherd tries to get out to contest, but that's a really good, really nice play design by the Knicks to give Anunoby an open three. Run it again. Here's your wall up screen, and Anunoby catches, lets it go, and it's a three. Nice little set by the Knicks. We're curious and monitor to see if that is something they continue to use. Detroit game. So this was early in the game, and this is a play the Knicks have run a bunch to start the year. You're basically going to get chin action to sort of kick off the play. So you're going to get a down screen here. And then we're going to get a chin cut, which is going to be Brunson cutting off Towns here. And we'll see where that flows into. So you get your down screen, which is to give Bridges the room to catch. And you're going to get again, this is your chin action here. You get a chin cut. So Brunson is going to cut through, but what this flows into is basically going to be a staggered look or strong action with Towns and Brunson setting up this staggered look for Anunoby. So you get your screen here, and the Knicks will have Anunoby come around and catch with momentum, maybe catch and get a shot from three. But what he's going to do is he's going to curl the first screen. So we get our curl. And now what the Knicks will usually do is that we'll get a pin down for Brunson from Towns. And if we get an overplay, we'll see how the Knicks sort of operated. But if we don't, what the Knicks will usually do is have Towns and Brunson just run an empty side pick and roll here. But because the Pistons are going to overplay and really be out high on Brunson, you could just see how where the defense is. This triggers what we would call a blind pig. So the pass comes over the top to Towns, and then this is something the Knicks ran a bunch last year. Brunson is going to plant here, and he goes backdoor, and you're going to get all this room for Towns to be able to deliver this ball and Brunson to hopefully get a layup. There's the backdoor cut. Towns catches, and in one motion hits Brunson in stride, and we get a layup. Really good action here by the Knicks. So we get our pin down for Bridges to catch. We get our chin cut by Brunson to go through. We get a motion stagger look, pin down for Brunson again, overplay, blind pig, layup. Now, this was in the Houston game. So before we wrap up, this was something the Timberwolves used a lot to try to give Towns open threes. This is partly the reason why Towns' three-point rate was actually higher with Gobert on the floor, because you would have this look here, which is basically a horn set, but a horns flare. So you're going to have Towns to come and set this initial ball screen, and that triggers a screen here by Hart on Towns' defender to try to open up a three-point shot. Rockets, who have been switching all game, switch this, but Sengun is just a little late getting out. I don't think Towns makes it. No, it's a miss, but a good look nonetheless. Good offense. Knicks need to continue to find a way to give Karl-Anthony Towns open threes. Final one before we say goodbye against the Hawks. We're going to get this is an after timeout situation here. This was Towns catching here at the elbow. And we're going to give basically what we would call Zoom or Chicago action, but we're going to be doing it almost at the elbow. So typically we'd have maybe whoever your player that you're going to be coming off the Zoom is going to be deep in the corner. But in this case, Brunson is going to come off his at first screen instead of it being traditionally kind of, that first pin down going to be in this area. In this case, it's going to be here, and we're going to go right into a dribble handoff with Towns. This is going to be your Zoom Chicago. Good screen by Towns. we get a nice little wrinkle here, which is not something you typically get, but a nice back screen by Anunoby. And this is going to force an emergency switch. So Capella is going to have to switch off. Brunson gets picked up. But the initial action here, the first switch, is going to be Daniels. So does Daniels get screened by Towns? He now has that matchup, and then you're back screened by Anunoby, but it's Towns now who does a good job of sealing and then getting position and a good find by Anunoby, and it's a nice finish by Karl-Anthony Towns. Important to give him some good looks in positions where he can just post up without a lot of room to have to kind of carve his way in the paint, because then at that point it gets a little stagnant. I like him more where the Knicks can figure out ways and designs to get him post touches close to the basket. And if he's not close to the basket, I like him facing, ripping, and just getting downhill. I think it's just a tougher cover when he's doing that versus just trying to back in, and grind his way closer to the basket. So listen, where the Knicks are right now, 3-4, it is not, cupcakes and rainbows right now, but we are very early in the season. There's their offense. I believe I looked at cleaning the glass before recording. I think they're still top 5. The defense is in the 20s. So certainly room for improvement on that end, but we knew there would be a kind of growing pains. I just will say, they're going to have to figure this out sooner than later if, a third seed in the East is something that they're going to end up attaining for the playoffs. So, but we have a long way to go. And while we get there, we will be doing plenty of these. So a lot more of these film sessions each week between myself, Benji Ritholtz, will have you guys covered. So if you have any questions, just comment on the video down below. We'll make sure to get your questions answered. So if anything I didn't cover or I was unclear or you want a clarification on something, please don't hesitate to either reach out on Twitter at DJ Ace NBA or just comment on the video. And I'll try to get all those questions answered. Speaking of YouTube, do your best to like, subscribe, share. Join us in what we're doing here. We're trying to build up the YouTube community. It's been growing fast and furious, and we're just trying to add more elements to make the content on this channel as diverse and well received as possible. So thank you for the support and continue doing that. It really does help us out a lot. So like, subscribe, do all those things. It's really, it does mean a lot and helps us out tremendously. So thank you so much for joining for my second one, our third session this year. We'll be back next week. Film Freaks, thank you for joining. Peace out.